So here we are, the mystifying 5 beliefs about AI and experience. So the reason I came up with this keynote and this blog series and this part of the book was because I was so annoyed about all the hype around AI. And I'm a strong believer in AI, but not if we just continue to follow the hype, right? I see a lot of human flourishing potential for better customer and employee experience and more purpose-driven work, but not if we keep following the, let's say, the let's implement a chatbot within 2 days kind of AI. So what I did, so this is the keynote that I gave in Porto for the National Contact Center Association in Portugal. And I was really thinking when I was preparing, how can I make it click, right? How can I make it click the current hype that we're living through? So I started with 2 questions. Question one, just raise of hand. Looking back in the last couple of weeks, when you needed customer service and you were checking like the chat, right, on a website, how many of you have had an amazing experience? Well, from the 300 people, I think one person raised their hand. Okay, so now put on your um, company hat, right? So this was your customer hat. Now put on your company hat. How many of you feel the pressure from the board or stakeholders to do something with AI? Everybody raised their hands. And everybody started laughing, right? Because directly everybody understood the point that I was trying to make, right? That from an experience from the customer, it's super bad, but all the companies are rushing to do something and, have the latest hype. So the goal today is to give some direction in maybe some sanity in what's going on with AI. An important part, let's say, for context, right? So there's a lot of FOMO, right? Everybody needs to be doing something with AI, right? Fear of missing out. It's a very important psychological construct. Um, but of course, you probably are not the tech expert. You're not the AI expert. But what are you the expert in? You are the expert in your own organization, your own company. So trust that, right? Trust your knowledge. You know best what the challenges are. You know what challenges might need some tech solution. And I think there are 2 crucial red flags for AI or tech suppliers for you to look into, right? First is when they come up to you and say, we have a chatbot up and running in 2 days, disqualify them, please, right? There's a lot more in the back end that needs to be done to really have a valuable solution. But also, if they're not able to explain to you super clearly how their AI, their tech solution is solving your business challenge in a way that everybody can understand, then they're also not really respectful to your business context. So trust your own knowledge of the organization. Common sense will get you a long way, right? In that sense, AI is just another technological innovation that should propel your company, society forward. Okay, belief number one, artificial intelligence is workflow automation. It's not. So when you're on LinkedIn, you might have seen a lot of posts about, hey, I'm saving thousands of hours with something that I used to do manually. For example, when they post a post on LinkedIn where you can get something if you put a word in the comments, like you add a survey in the comments and then they will send you something. That's not AI, and that's workflow automation. Super efficient, super valuable, just not AI. Right? So I think it's important to understand there are sort of 3, let's say, flavors that are now all under the AI umbrella. Just like everything nowadays is custom experience, that's also not the case. And it's not helpful if we don't speak the same language, right? So what do we actually mean? So that's workflow automation, following rules constantly, right? No interpretation, no flaws, because it's just executing rules. Then we have, let's say, the large language models, where now most of the hype is around, right? The ChatGPTs, the clouds, the Geminis of this world. That's AI interpreting data, right? Language. And then you also have machine learning. Let's say in hospitals, now they're using computers to understand how can we enhance the quality of the diagnosis. So I just think these 3 are sort of relevant buckets to use. And stepping back from that, just always think, okay, it's technology in essence. How can technology fix business problems? How can we create new solutions for employees, for customers, right? It should always facilitate your business. Belief number two, artificial experience is extremely fast. Yes, developments are going super fast, right? There are new models created every day and they can do a lot of new things that they couldn't do like 6 months ago. But the very important but is the context. So yes, as a freelancer in my case, or just you as a, in your private context at home, you can try out all the new cool apps solutions coming at you every week. But our goal is to transform organizations, right? And I'm focused on companies with at least 1,000 or more employees. That's not super simple, right? They have legacy systems, they have IT architecture, they have data privacy, right? They can't just start experimenting with any tool that's coming out. I mean, just think about CRM software, right? So my thesis from my first studies 25 years ago was about CRM. So I started working and I thought, oh, I'm going to meet all these super amazing companies that have brilliant CRM systems. Well, I think also your company 25 years later, CRM is still a challenge, right? The data quality is a challenge. It's not really facilitating everybody. Not people are willing to enter all the data, right? A lot of um, understandable reasons, but right, tech is not super fast in changing corporations. So again, Zen moment. Don't FOMO in. Make sure you take the time to really solve relevant business issues. Belief number three, AI should be designed for efficiency. I have another example. So yes, AI is definitely going to help with efficiency, right? All the workflow automation examples will save a lot of time. And I think that 80 or 90% of the business challenges nowadays can be fixed with workflow automation, right? It doesn't even need to be AI. But let me share the example. So for work, I needed to fly to Oman. I'm working with a client in Oman. And I would land early morning, let's say 6 a.m. So I wanted to check with the hotel. Can I do an early check-in or do I need to book another room? I already know from the large hotel chains, right, their customer service on the web is pretty bad. So I already decided to give them a call. I give them a call. A computer voice is telling me, hey, please speak slowly and ask your question. Speak slowly. Okay, now I'm awake. So now I'm going to test you. So I'm not speaking slowly. So in my normal, pretty fast voice, I ask about the early check-in. Then it goes silent a really long time, almost so long that I'm about to hang up. And I just see in my brain, I see, okay, this is the Avaya uh, call software connecting to the voice bot software connecting to the knowledge base. Okay, in the end, I'm about to hang up, and then the computer comes back saying you can check in from 2 p.m. Not too bad, right? But not an answer to my question. So I hang up and I decide I'll just send them an email. Within 3 seconds, my phone rings. And I don't know the number, but immediately my gut feeling is telling me it's probably connected to the call I was just having. I pick up the phone. Without any explanation, a human starts telling me, why did you just hang up while I was explaining the answer to you? Like, what? Are you kidding me? Right? That's so disrespectful to customers, assuming that they don't know the difference between a person and a computer. But this to me is what happens when you just design for efficiency, right? And can already hear a team thinking, hey, it would be nice to reduce some calls. And you know what? If customers hang up, we'll just call them back, right? Reputational risk, and you're not even being more efficient because I'm still sending you an email, right? So always be aware. Don't just design for efficiency. Look broader than that. I'll be sharing some design principles later on with other topics that you can take into account. Belief number four, customer and employee needs are changing. They're not. Each employee 100 years ago wanted to have work that was fulfilling, that was making an impact to customers or to their colleagues, to society. That's still relevant today, maybe even more so, right? Especially with the new generations. Customers the same, right? 100 years ago, maybe I walked into the grocery store and the person behind the counter was saying, "Hey, Zanna, how are you doing today? Is your husband doing fine with his health? Oh, by the way, that product you ordered, it will be here in 3 days." Personal attention, they know me, they make a connection, and they know the status of whatever I ordered. That's still the need of customers today. That hasn't changed. What has changed is that the context for you as a company to address those needs has become way more complex, right? Instead of maybe the grocery store needing to go down the road and check with the bakery to get my package, now you have a global supply chain that you need to manage. You have WhatsApp, you have a chat on your website, right? You have so many different channels that you need to manage. But if you don't see that the needs are the same, but the context has changed, then I think you'll be designing the wrong solutions, right? So yes, you need to use technology. You need to use all the available tools to still create also that human experience. Needs are not the same. Your context has become way more complex. Last belief, removing friction is what matters most. I'm guessing also in your company, you're doing something with digital transformation. All the digital transformations that I'm seeing are focusing on making things easier, more accessible, faster, right? They're really focused on removing frictions. Hey, they only need to do 3 clicks. I'm not saying that's not relevant, but I'm saying it's not the thing that matters most to customers. Right? From all the research that we've done in the past 15 years across 25 countries, very different industries, very different cultures, the number one topic that matters most to customers is this human aspect. Be there for me. Give me personal attention. Treat me with respect. So yes, friction matters, but it's a baseline. I'm going to use the Kano model to give you some more context. So if you don't know the Kano model, he figured out based on research that you have different types of topics. You have so-called basic factors, hygiene factors, and you have wow factors, so-called satisfiers. What does it mean? As you can see from the line with the basic slash hygiene factors, you see that when that factor is really bad, customers are super unhappy. If you do it well, I maybe rate you a 7, but I will not shout from the rooftops how amazing you are. But for example, let's say the network in a telco, if I cannot call, I'll be super unhappy. If the network is functioning, I will not rate you a 10 because I expect that the network is functioning. If we go to the wow factors or differentiators, if that is not present, I will not be super unhappy. But if it is, that's when I start giving you 9s and 10s because I'm getting an amazing experience. What I see is that most companies are really focusing on fixing the basics without being aware that they're just focusing on fixing the basics. Recently, I did an exercise with one of my clients where I asked, hey, just plot all your activities, all your projects in this graph. And 85% of what they were doing, of their improvements, were focused on fixing the basics. That can be a conscious choice, but often it's not, right? So make sure you not only design for hygiene, fixing the basics, and be on par with your competitors, but also make sure that you think consciously about differentiators. So what are examples? Almost always are these hygiene factors transactional, right? Ease of doing things, speed of doing things, the network, as I mentioned, often also price, right? Price is not the key thing that will make me more happy. And the fact that everybody is focusing on this layer is also an explanation why in so many benchmarks, all the companies are very close together, right? Nobody's really leaving the pack because they're all focusing on these transactional topics. The differentiators, as I mentioned, are on the emotional side, the human aspect. So it's really crucial for you to start thinking, how can I design the journeys in such a way that it's not just transactional, super simple, super seamless, but that I feel seen as human being, that you're there for me when I need you, that you make it personal for me, right? The combination of both, that's where you can start leaving the pack and really make a difference on customers. So when you look at all this, right, how can you use that for your existing or future AI projects? I thought maybe it's useful to share sort of 5 design principles that could guide you in your decision making. I mean, the first one may be super obvious, but I still see that going wrong, right? Make sure that whatever AI thing you're thinking about, first think about which business problem do we want to solve. Too often I see, hey, there's a supplier that has maybe a super sexy chatbot. How can we use that, right? Instead of, hey, we have maybe a super high workload in this department. How can technology facilitate that, right? How can it take away, for example, time that's not adding value for employees, and then make up time for quality adding value, sorry, value adding time with customers, right? So please, okay, what are the key business problems? Again, you are the expert on your organization. So without any technological knowledge, what are your key business problems? Then once you have your business problems, the question becomes, okay, do we even have any data that we can use to fix that problem? Right? Again, the example of CRM software. If all your sales and account managers are not actually entering the data of conversation with customers, it's very hard to start using AI to make it personal because AI cannot use the personalized data in your CRM because you don't have any. Right? So also there, think through, okay, before any solution, what data would we need to actually use technology to solve the problem? Only then start thinking, okay, seeing the business problem and the data quality, do we actually need AI or is actually workflow automation a way better solution? Right? So think about again what type of a technology. Don't automatically assume that you need AI to fix your problem. And then, right, as I mentioned, don't design just for efficiency. Yes, you can also save a lot of time for sure, but also design the customer experience and design the employee experience, right? Before you start implementing, design what you want the customer experience to look like. And don't design it in such a way that, when I hang up the phone, you get a person to call me and fake that you were just talking to me, right? As an example. And of course, also before you start implementing it, think about how to measure. Now, that might also be a bit of an open door, but what I see is that a lot of people are measuring, for example, the number of times that a chatbot on their website is used, the number of times that an app is downloaded. It's not that that's a bad metric, but it's not sufficient, right? You also want to make sure, okay, maybe a lot of customers are using the chatbot, but they're super unhappy, or they're still emailing us, right? So you also want to think about experience and business metrics next to just the adoption metrics, right? It should be a holistic set of data that you want to track to see if your AI solution is actually solving the business problem that you've defined. So when we bring it all back to the essence, in essence, to me, technology should enhance transformation. Whether it's digital transformation, whether it's cultural transformation, whether in my case, my baby is CX transformation, creating more customer and human-centric companies, technology should facilitate that. Right. So on the left here, you see the model that I've created for my new book. Right. This is how I look at CX transformation. And each of these 3 layers should be made better, should be made faster, should be made more durable, sustainable through technology, right? It should enhance it. If we need customers to get more personal attention, how can technology facilitate that? If employees feel a lack of purpose because they're doing maybe too much mind-numbing jobs, how can we remove the mind-numbing tasks and use that time to give them more impactful work and enhance the customer experience at the same time, right? So there's a lot of, as I mentioned, I'm a strong believer in AI and technology to really facilitate that transformation, to really bring that human flourishing. Because when you look at meaningful work, right, and the transformation that we want to make, more human-centric companies, 3 pillars are crucial, right? It's customers, employees, and purpose. So for me, the whole methodology around CX transformation is a means to the end of creating companies that focus on these three pillars and making that super tangible in the organization. Specifically in this order, because sometimes companies start with, purpose and culture, but maybe you also recognize that becomes like a super vague, long program and not really any business impact is made. So what I've seen is when you start from the customer, what happens is, as I just mentioned, what you see in research is that the number one driver is this human aspect. So we've proven several times that, for example, personal attention is 5 times more impactful than fixing the app. That means 5 times faster satisfaction, NPS score, financial results. So you're speaking the language of the organization, right? That needs hard steerable data. But now you're proving that this human fluffy thing actually can be steerable. When employees see that, when they see, hey, this human aspect matters most, they feel a sense of, finally, because that's why they once decided to work for your organization, to make an impact on customers. So that gives them more meaningful work when they can start experimenting with tiny habits that are connected to those human drivers. Once they feel more meaningful work, it's easier to bridge the next step to purpose. What is my personal purpose in life? How can I connect it to the purpose of the organization? Right? So that order makes the more abstract topics like purpose, like customer human centricity, really tangible and really integrated in the daily work of all the employees and also the leadership. Well, as I mentioned, right, this model that I've created is part of my new book. This new book is coming out in January 2nd, called Once You See It, right? Because for me, when I was reflecting on, okay, the word transformation is being used a lot, right? So what does transformation really mean to me? And for me, personal transformation is, I think, the key to life, right? You cannot be a good leader. You cannot be just a nice person if you're not also developing yourself. So I was reflecting, okay, transformation to me, actually the most profound transformation is a change in perspective. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That's how I came up with the once you see it. Once I see through my pattern of taking on too much responsibility, I can change it. Once I see through the pattern of judging too much, I can start changing it. Right? Once you see through the patterns of the organization system, we can start changing it. So it's coming out January 2nd. This QR code brings you to a landing page where if you sign up, I will send you sneak preview access to parts of the book. I will not spoil the rest, but if you're interested, you can already get access to part of the content. So just to wrap up, right? If you right now are working with or thinking about doing AI projects, just use these insights to sort of, reflect, pause, and think, hey, how are we right now treating these AI projects? Are we FOMOing into something? Or are we really thinking which business problem is it going to solve? What does the experience of customers and employees look like? Are we actually making a business impact, right? Do we actually understand what we're saying yes to? So I hope this is a valuable part in, let's say, making the AI part a bit more down to earth, a bit more realistic, while still, working on the for sure the value it has for so many companies to bring more human flourishing, where teachers can teach more with the kids, nurses can spend more time actually with patients instead of all the administration, for example. Right? I really believe that that's in the cards in the future. So thanks so much for watching. And if you have any questions, just send me a DM on LinkedIn.